Hi, this is Abe Friedtanzer from cinemadailyus.com, and I'm thrilled to be here today with Emily Beecham talking about The Pursuit of Love. How are you today, Emily?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good. It's really great to be able to speak with you. I've enjoyed your work on the show.
Oh, good. No, thank you.
So I'm curious, the relationship between Fanny and Linda is that Fanny is often jealous of the life that Linda leads. Was there ever any consideration or desire on your part to play Linda instead of Fanny?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I've never been asked that before. Part of me did think it would be really fun just to let your hair down. I do sometimes find the more kind of repressed or internal characters are kind of trickier sometimes for me sometimes because there's so much they're thinking all the time. But well, I loved Fanny for her many lovely qualities as well, and she wasn't always jealous of Linda. I just, in her defense, at certain times in her life when she was struggling a bit, she did have feelings of jealousy, but for the most part, she's protective of her friend and concerned for her friend.
Do you have personal relationships with siblings or cousins that were helpful to draw on for the way that Fanny interacted with Linda?
Oh, that's interesting. I had a best friend when I was about 3 years old, and we spent a lot of the time getting up to mischief, up until, I mean, I moved away from the area, but when I was about 11. So we were friends until then, and we got up to all sorts of mischief. So there was a lot of memories from that of just that we weren't quite as old as Fanny and Linda at the time, but that sort of feral kind of friendship where you get up to mischief and you just know each other like siblings, really. So I think that was really important for them because also they made such different decisions in their lives, but they always come together like glue. There's a real push and pull, and then they always just see each other for who they are, the childhood friends that they were all the time, despite their differences in perhaps choices or ethics or yeah.
Do you enjoy shooting period dramas like this? And do you have any particularly favorite costumes or shooting locations?
The little sweet, funny little knitted hats were nice, although not when it got hot. When the knits were not so pleasant when it was hot. But there's a particular hat, there's a particular outfit when Linda's in the very pink hospital bed when she first gives birth to her daughter, and Fanny comes and visits, and I've got this very strange. I've never seen a hat like that. Sort of like a triangle, very jaunty. It almost looks like a boat on my head, and with these pink walls with all these flowers. It's just such I thought it was such an amazing shot. Reminded me a bit of a Wes Anderson kind of very colourful, and I loved all the costumes really. Yeah.
There are also so
All
many great Please go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say they're all very helpful in their own way, each costume. Yeah.
There are so many great actors in this cast. I'd love to hear about your
Yes.
working relationship with them. Let's start with Lily James.
Oh, Lily. Lily is such a naturally vivacious, effervescent person that I just knew she would just be so easy to be with as these characters, and mainly because Fanny is just madly in love with Linda and often lives slightly vicariously through Linda. And Lily does have a naturally quite exciting kind of trying to find a different word besides presence. Not present, but she's just, yeah, she's easy to feel like you would want to fall in love with her. So yeah, and she was really inspiring. Her character had a roller coaster, and she just was like 120%, like just so committed, and I had so much admiration for her. It was fun and intense, the whole shooting period, because of everything that the girls were going through, or what we were discussing, etc. Yeah.
And Emily Mortimer has precious few scenes, but they're all spectacular. And what was that like
So
with her
spectacular.
being so behind the scenes in this role? What was that like?
she's so funny. She's so funny as the character, and she's so modest. She was like, oh no, and she was like, oh gosh, it's so hard. But then she was just so funny. I loved her costumes as well and her wiggies. And then what she would what she would do once she was in all that, just so funny. It really cracked me up. Um, yes, I think she said it was challenging, going behind the camera and then in front of the camera. I can't imagine, but she seemed to handle it like a pro. But yeah, she's so funny. So she's also kind of having to try and watch what we're doing at the same time as trying to be in the scenes. So that's a crazy challenge.
I think one of the coldest relationships that Fanny has is with her uncle, and Dominic West is just such an
Oh
insufferable
yes,
tyrant. But I imagine
yes.
that he's probably one of the most fun people on set.
Oh yeah, he's very funny. Yeah, he's really good fun and outrageous and kind of he's got a great sense of humor and yes, he was great because I think Uncle Matthew's quite sort of bold and loud. Um, so Dominic naturally has quite a big, loud presence. But yes. Well, we didn't really interact too much because I felt Fanny was pretty much most of the time trying to avoid eye contact with Uncle Matthew. So, so but him as a person, he's very nice and charming and pleasant to be with. So,
And there's another loud and bold character who's very, very different, and that's the one played by Andrew Scott. What is he like?
oh, Andrew is very spontaneous and he just because we had a few scenes together. Um, even though Merlin kind of dismisses Fanny for most of the time. But yes, he'd have a great idea for every scene and just completely unexpected things about their relationship or the subtext, and then play it out in a way that you just wouldn't expect, and then the scene would be much better for it. So, um, oh yeah, him and John Heffernan, who played Uncle Davy, them together were just oh my goodness, it was so funny. I'm if they ever make love in a cold climate, I just am very much looking forward to seeing Uncle Davy and Merlin's antics because I think there's much funny material in that book for them. So um, they really made me laugh a lot. Um, yes, yeah.
And so I know that the show has already premiered in the UK. What have you heard in terms of the response and the reaction from anybody?
I try not to read things because it's a weird experience, but I've had people saying that it sort of really moved them, which was a really pleasant, not that I was surprised by that, but it's always a pleasant surprise because I guess that someone was taken away with the story or cared enough about the characters, which is really nice. It's what you always hope will happen, but you never know. Um, so that was really lovely, and also that people who seem to be at all different ages and different sexes seem to have seem to have responded to it or talked to me about it, or my friends will say, they were amongst people were discussing it and the details with it, which is um, nice, really, because you don't really know how it's going to ever translate or if anybody's ever going to read anything into or get anything. You just never know, really. So that was nice if people care because we cared about them a lot.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, even though they're not real, but yeah.
And what else do you have coming up?
I'm filming at the moment a Netflix series. I'm in Berlin right now, called 1899, and it's from the creators of Dark, who did a German Netflix series. And so this is multilingual; it's international, which is quite interesting. So we've got actors from Denmark, Germany, France, Spain, China, England, and they're all speaking their own languages, and they're all struggling to communicate. But there's sort of moments where they do communicate and moments where they can't. But it's very surreal and complicated and interesting. It's a bit like a labyrinth. So every time you go into the script, I'm sort of working on it in a different way that I've had to work on a script before, because it's a completely different sort of format, or completely different to anything I've ever done. So it's a challenge, but yes. So we'll be finished that in November, and we're filming on a technology called the Volume, which The Mandalorian shot with. So it's the second production to ever use this new technology, and it replaces green screen. So it's basically a giant cinema screen that's in a cylinder around you, and it sort of makes you feel seasick because it moves. So it lights you and it moves all the background, so you don't have to travel. It's quite unusual.
Sounds really interesting.
So,
Wow.
yeah, quite interesting.
Well, wonderful. The Pursuit of Love premieres on Amazon Prime Video on Friday, July 30th. Thank you again for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
You too.
Have a nice day.